Today I sit down with Shaun and Chris from the podcast Dadnarok. Shaun and Chris have been podcasting for a while, and they are now recently moving into live show. They're doing their first show October 23rd at 9 p.m., and they couldn't be more nervous. So today I'm talking shop with them on how they went from podcast to Vodcast. So today I'm sitting down with Shaun and Chris from the most famous podcast, Dadnarok. How are you guys doing today?
We're great. I'm great. How about you?
Good. I really appreciate you guys coming on. So,
Jeremy, thanks for having us. This is awesome.
So tell us a little bit about your show. Tell us what the show's about.
Well, should we talk about the Dadnarok podcast first?
Yes.
Maybe talk a little bit about that. Well, Chris and I were camping. It would have been 2 years ago now. And we were sitting by the fire. His son was asleep in the tent, and we were just chilling. And he was like, "Hey, man, would you want to do a podcast with me?" And, I'd been listening to podcasts forever. I mean, Kevin Smith's Smodcast back in the earlier 2000s, and even like shows like Starkville House of L, which was a Smallville review recap podcast. I listen to that every week.
Nice.
So podcasting is something I go way back with, and I never really thought about doing one myself, but I was like, what the hell? Let's do it.
And Chris, you were just on board from the beginning?
Oh, I wasn't sure how he was going to take it. I was like, I took it like really timidly. I was like, hey, would you want to do this? I don't want to do it by myself. It's going to suck. So when he was on board, we were like, okay, cool. Now we got to start now that we want to do this, how do we do this?
Right.
So we start setting up fake deadlines and everything so we can kind of push ourselves rather than just kind of cruising and going nowhere with it. I remember now, since we were going for about a year, and we did our camping trip, and we decided I was going to spend the money on the GoPro. We were going to do a video there. It was by the fire, kind of recapping the past year and everything. I think that's kind of what started the wheels turning with us kind of going into live broadcasting.
Nice. So I listened to your first episode ever today on Apple Podcasts. Actually, I'm sorry, on your website. And it was funny because Chris had problems with the new Lion King, the live action Lion King movie that just came out. How they had cut scenes out that weren't in the original cartoon, and it was just. But I listened to the first episode, and then I listened to your most recent episode, and you can totally hear the difference. You guys are absolutely more polished now. And, it's like, but I still loved your show. I loved your show throughout all the episodes, and you guys put out some really great content. What happened between the first episode and the most recent episode that you said, hey, let's try to clean this up a little bit, or let's make it a little bit more polished?
I think it was just listening back to it. I mean, I'm bad about it. Honestly, it makes me sound vain, I guess, but I listen to my own show more than I listen to other podcasts now. I don't know what it is. I'm a fan of my own show, which is kind of lame, but whatever. I'm the guy that's going to wear the Dadnarok t-shirt and,
yes.
Wear it around. But I don't know. It's just from listening to it and hearing the quality of other shows that I liked, and just knowing that I'd be able to get there pretty inexpensively. I mean, you just put a little money here and there into things, and eventually you just start learning by doing. And yeah, we got to a point now where, we've got it kind of edited, and we take out a lot of ums and pauses, and, we can kind of do things on the fly while we're on, it used to be FaceTime, but now we're on StreamYard together when we do the show. And we can kind of, think of things on the fly and edit around it. And yeah, I agree. I actually listened to the first episode recently, and it's definitely not polished, but it's, the meat's still there.
Yeah.
You can tell that we've known each other for a while.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think after a certain point, we kind of fell into a routine. Like, we knew certain things were being handled by him, certain things I handled better. Like, from the beginning, like the show notes, getting things in line. Like, okay, what are we going to talk about? Having an outline set up. That kind of fell into me. I think I maybe enjoy that more than he does. But he is awesome at the editing. So he does all the editing. And then somehow I fell into the promotion part, which I think neither of us seen me doing as well at. But the social networking, right where we found you, honestly, kind of fell right into my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm. So the microphone that you had used in the first episode, was that the same microphone you guys are currently using, or did you guys get upgrades also?
No, I actually have the same mic. I think he does too. It's all how you use it, it's all how you use what you got, baby.
Yep.
I was just actually talking about that. My next upgrade will probably wind up being my mic.
Okay, what kind of mic are you using now? What is that?
It's a Fi-Fi, relatively cheap, Amazon. It's one of those things we didn't know how long we were going to do it, so I didn't want to sink a ton of money into it.
Yeah.
And now that I'm comfortable with it, it's like, why change it right now?
Right.
We were both on GarageBand at first because I was using a Mac and so was he. And GarageBand was pretty easy to use. And then once I actually built a PC and I got rid of the Mac desktop that I was using, we had to figure that out. I had to get a replacement. So I use Audacity, and then eventually he started using a PC as well. And now we both use Audacity. It's a different format as far as recording and editing and doing some effects and stuff, but it's fairly similar. And Chris always had kind of better mic quality than I did. I think maybe his recording space is a bit better than I had. But since the move, and I have a little more space down here than I used to in my old setup, my voice doesn't bounce against the walls as much. So I think it sounds a little bit better. And I don't know. It's just, kind of fine tuning everything, trying things and seeing what sticks.
Yeah. I mean, you look great now, Shaun. You recently moved into your new house, right? Congratulations.
I did. Thank you. Yeah, this is eventually going to be my backdrop here. That little cutout of the wall behind me back there.
Yeah.
That eventually is going to have the Dadnarok arcade.
Nice.
Going to have an arcade cabinet built back there, and I know trying to get some more shelves and stuff around, but I don't know. Let's say I got one thing going, but yeah, it's a work in progress for sure.
That's awesome. You guys have come a long way, man. And I applaud you guys for continuing and sticking with the podcast, even though both of you guys are in separate states. I mean, that's commitment,
Well, I think it's actually been really cool because, before that, there was a period of time where we lived apart when we were in high school. He was in New Jersey. I was down in North Carolina. And we still kept in contact. But now that I'm in Ohio and he's down in Kentucky doing this weekly, we see each other, I think, more now than we have seen each other since we lived next to each other.
Right.
Yeah, that's
so
for
it's
sure.
It's cool in that aspect. Definitely with what's going on right now. It's like
and honestly, as far as going from podcast to Vodcast, it's mostly your fault. You're the one that put the bug in us when you invited us on your live.
That
really? DC show. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a long show. You guys stuck around with me for that, and I think that was 8 hours. Like, I was continuously on live for 8 hours, and you guys were there, and that was awesome.
It was great. Well,
that was something. Yeah, my wife would not have let me do that.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll even have the money for the uptick in StreamYard hours to be able to do that.
Right.
I don't know what that cost you, but I don't want to know.
Well, let's just put it this way. I think Facebook stops live streaming after 6 hours, and I was still on for 2 hours more. So, on Twitter and YouTube. So, but it was a long one. Yes, it was definitely a long one. Like we were saying, you guys have lived in separate states for basically a long time, and for basically the whole podcast. And so I guess quarantine didn't really have an effect on you guys as far as getting together. So how have you seen a downtick in your stats as far as listening because of quarantine?
I'll that one.
It's mainly been pretty steady.
Yeah.
It's been pretty steady. I have seen a little bit of a downtick, but the more that we've been messing with like Twitter and networking and putting out our promo to other shows and swapping, I've actually seen an uptick in our actual downloads than a slowdown. So we've actually had our biggest month last month, and we're trending right now to actually have a bigger this month than we did the prior month. So it's,
Awesome.
I mean, our numbers are really meager to start with.
Yeah.
But I mean, we love doing it. So I mean, I look at the numbers and just take them for what they are. But if they can increase in any way and get more people to listen to us,
I think just to piggyback on what he was saying, I think what COVID has kind of affected the podcast the most is just the lack of content out there. I mean, like, just pop culture news. The only news you get these days is just like how something else is delayed. Now Batman's not coming out till 2022, or
I know.
It's not a lot of fun as far as like talking about movies or TV or stuff like that, or even just the family stuff. I mean, we have the upfront part of our podcast. We talk about what we did with the family that week, if anything. And since you can't really go to many places, it kind of puts a hindrance on that a little bit. True. Chris seems to make it out of the house a lot more than I do, though. He is constantly bringing his family and going to the zoo or going somewhere, and he always has something new to talk about in that venue. And I'm like, well, Verona was on the iPad a lot, and I edited the podcast, and I don't know.
Not much.
I don't have much for you.
Yeah, no, we purposely got the passes to the zoo, knowing that it's outside. They limited the amount of people in there, and I mean, we all, like my daughter and son, are really good at wearing the other things. So we knew we can limit things and still get outside at the same time. So that was something that we thought was important, just to be able to get out of the house, even though it's a good like hour and 20-minute drive for us, but it's still kind of worth its time.
That's a far drive for a zoo, but
we just drove 2.5 hours for an open air safari zoo.
No, not me. No.
How should we talk about our new venture here?
Okay, so let's talk about that. So you guys have never really gone live before. Okay, you've guested on a couple of the shows, my other show included. So now you got the bug you said before about going live and turning on your video cameras. So how did you guys come to that decision to actually put yourself in front of the camera?
Well, I think it was just something to keep it fresh. We've been doing the show for a year now, and I think it's a good way of growing. I mean, to put video content out there, it seems to be the way things are going now. I mean, podcasts are, I love doing it, but unfortunately, they're kind of a dime a dozen. I mean, everybody and their uncle has a podcast now, right. Including us two schlubs. And I don't know. I think, but I feel like, while there are platforms like YouTube and Twitch, and a lot of people are video streaming. I know myself, I subscribe to like 50 YouTube channels, and I watch YouTube more than I do actual cable or anything like that. Right. And I'm subscribed to so much that, there's new content constantly. So I just like the idea of like doing our own thing, in that platform, whether it be, YouTube or Twitch or whatever, and kind of a smaller bite-sized content. We do our show, and usually we record for about an hour, and it gets truncated and edited down to about 45 minutes or so, typically. But I think we're planning on doing some kind of smaller bits of content, maybe 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes at most. It'll be less editing for me on the back end, so my wife will be, hopefully not complaining. Are you still down there editing?
Yep.
That's what I hear a lot.
But yeah, I mean, kind of going off of what Shaun said there, we were already seeing each other, on the computer screen as is. So we were doing, FaceTime, then we flipped over. So we were already kind of doing it that way. So we're like, why don't we just start recording this in some manner? And then we had to figure out, what we were doing, how we were going to do it. And it was kind of like starting the podcast all over again. Yeah. Okay, what do we need? What software do we get? How do we record it? How do we get it to platforms where people can see it? Mm-hmm. So it was all of that. So we figured when we decided to do this was almost about a month and a half ago or so. And we started, building on top of that. And then once we got to the point where we both kind of feel comfortable now, we're getting the itch just to go. We just kind of went, because I went ahead and I finished up our opening. What was big for us was I wanted to have a closing video, mm-hmm. and I wanted to have an opening video.
Okay.
And so we both took shots with our GoPros and everything, and I kind of put together the video for the beginning and the video for the end. And now that we have that, And Shaun did all like the graphics work. So we have all our graphics actually in StreamYard, all set and ready. So when we decide to go, it's just basically go and we talk, and
nice.
we're ready.
Nice. You know, I'm really excited for you guys. You know, because I was talking to Chris the other day. I think it was Chris, right, on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to him the other day, and he was telling me about all this stuff, and he sent me a picture of a preview of what you guys have set up. And like I'm very excited for you guys because, you know, this is the first time you guys are going live. But I was disappointed because it was so far away. I was like, come on, you know, like I want it to be like tonight or tomorrow or something like that. No, so
I know
now,
we were giving ourselves some runway there. I don't know, Chris. You and I talked about maybe doing a test run on Facebook, right? And maybe that's something we can talk to you, John, about. Is just like, you know, the different platforms that are out there. I think ultimately, we haven't even mentioned the name of the show. It's going to be called Dadnarok High Voltage.
nice.
Just kind of an extension of the Dadnarok podcast.
Right.
And I think the format of the show most likely is just going to be smaller pop culture reactions here and there. I'd like to do like trailer reviews where he and I watch, you know, like movie trailers and stuff together.
Okay.
I think those are pretty big on YouTube. Like, you know, when the latest trailer drops, everybody searches for that trailer, and a lot of times you get results for, you know, people's reactions to them, right?
Yep.
So I think that would be
but
cool.
we also do things like reviewing shows. So we used to do like last year for the Star Wars Mandalorian, we did a weekly show on top of our weekly shows. So we were having 2 releases a week on that. So we had our special one and then we had our normal one. So we're thinking about going, and that's why we waited till I'll let the cat out of the bag. That's why we were waiting till October 30th to start the actual, you know, podcast or the Vodcast to actually start doing that live with it and do our review that way.
Season 2.
Yeah. So just go ahead and have that, you know, on our show to say, the only way to get it is to go check us out this way.
Nice. Okay. So what did you guys want to know as far as platforms?
Is there one better than another?
Yeah. How do you rank them?
Well, that's hard because I guess it all depends on your show. Okay. Because if you get more interaction from your audience on Facebook and you have more followers on your Facebook page than you do, let's say, on your YouTube or your Twitter account, you know, then I would say just go live on Facebook. But see, what a lot of shows are doing is that they're kind of shotgunning it, where they're streaming to multiple places at once, basically where everybody follows them. So I know on my show, when we first started, we were streaming to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You know, and I remember after the show, I'd have to go to every platform, check the stats, see who was watching. And you'll see a difference in the viewership from platform to platform. And then you can kind of funnel it down to a specific platform after that. So like right now, I know that my show gets more views on Facebook. So I don't really bother or care too much about Twitter or Instagram, let's say, or, you know, even YouTube. You know, YouTube, what I like to do is I like to stream on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously all at once because, number one, it creates content for YouTube and I don't have to worry about uploading it later. Okay, so once the live show is done, YouTube basically processes the whole video and it takes like a couple hours or so to publish it on YouTube. And I don't have to worry about it. Maybe later on I have to go and do the tags and the title and the description, you know, after that, maybe update the thumbnail, but I don't have to worry about it after that. So, and I know that my YouTube content, my YouTube channel is building without me even doing anything, when really the only platform I care about is Facebook. So, So I would say try the shotgun approach maybe the first month that you guys go live. And then every week, look at your stats, see which one's the best. And then after that, you guys can make a decision. Because I know you guys are streaming on StreamYard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I know that if you want to stream to, I think, 3 or more platforms, you have to pay for it. Otherwise, you can use the free version. So if you guys want to stay within the free version, then, you know, just stream to maybe 1 or 2 places, you know, and just see which one's the best.
I think we ended up going with, Chris actually created a Twitch for us. It hasn't been announced just yet or linked on the Dadnarok page. but we do have a Twitch now. I think it's been the opposite for us, honestly, as far as Facebook goes. Facebook was our first go-to because I just personally was on Facebook a lot, just, have a lot of family in other states and friends and stuff. It was a way I'm pretty much on Facebook every day. So I thought that would be the most logical way for our show to grow at first. And of course, I had a lot of family follow the show, but that's kind of where it ended. And then Chris, who went and started a Twitter account. I've rarely ever been on Twitter, still kind of not. He leads that ship, and he's grown it. We went over 1,000 followers
daily
just about a week ago.
Yeah,
you're on there quite a bit. So I know Twitter might be our main platform.
Well, that's great because on StreamYard it's called Periscope. But yeah, I mean, whatever platform works for you guys, whichever one you guys have the most followers, wherever you get the most engagement is where you should be streaming. So, but even if you say you get your most engagement from Twitter, I would still also stream to YouTube. This way, like I said, you have that content that automatically gets built up.
Yeah, we'll definitely be doing that.
Yeah. So you guys excited? You nervous? How do you feel?
I think mostly excited.
Wait. I've got the bug. I mean, if we were flub my lines that we edit out.
StreamYard's been pretty good with when it's just him and me talking to each other. There's no, delay or anything. But I don't know. We'll see. Once we actually go live and start blasting out to the other platforms, hopefully we won't run into any technical issues.
No, I think you guys should be fine. I mean,
I'm expecting technical issues.
I would go through a practice run before you guys actually go live. What you should do is, because I know with my show, there are certain things that have to happen in order. And trust me, when you hit that live button, your nerves will get the best of you and you'll forget what to click. So go through it like a million times so that you know which one comes first, which one's second, because we have, just like you guys, we have an ad that plays in the beginning of our episode. And plus, then we have the intro that plays. So, we have multiple things happening, just like you guys. But you guys are making us wait until October 23rd, which is horrible. So...
Well,
I would say stay tuned.
Do we want to drop this, Sean?
Visit Dadnarok.com for links to all our social media pages. But I think we are going to do a bit of a test run on Facebook before the 23rd.
Good. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, we have a certain show that we follow pretty intensely that's coming to an end this Friday. So if you feel some static going through your body and you're going to get shocked when you touch something, that may be a good indication, log on and check something out.
Okay. All right.
If you want awful dad jokes just like that one, come and listen to us.
No, you guys are really hilarious. You really put on a good show.
Thanks, John. You do too, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. Even though there's lag, I'm sorry. All right, guys. Well, this is the end of the show, and I usually like to end the show with my guest giving one piece of advice to my audience. So what piece of advice would you have for newcomers, because you guys are just starting in the Vodcast arena? And so what would be your one piece of advice to newbies?
I'll say as a whole, I mean, when it comes from our podcasting to us going into, the podcasting here, is don't get wrapped up in the numbers. If you have people downloading the show, great. If you have people that are enjoying, even better. But if you're enjoying what you're doing, it doesn't matter how many people actually download the show.
That's great. It's good. It's a good piece of advice, because I'm a firm believer that you should do your show just for the fun of it, and not really pay too much attention to your stats. And, I mean, it'd be nice if there were thousands of downloads every episode, but, we're not Joe Rogan, so...
Yeah. God willing, maybe someday.
Yeah.
If I had one piece of advice, it would probably be Chris's. But if I had two pieces of advice, I guess the other one would be have a guideline. Like Chris puts together show notes for our podcast each and every week. And but don't, it's okay to not stick to it as a hard line. I mean, be fluid with it. Especially if you're on, with somebody else, and if you have a good rapport with that person. Sometimes just throw the show notes out the window if you guys are on and talking naturally about something else. I think people respond to natural conversation more than just, reading off a piece of paper or something.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Spontaneity, it would be great in podcast episodes. If you're planning out your episode, just bullet point it, think of topics and just stick to the topics and just have fun with it,
Yeah, we've had some lighter show notes in the past, and we didn't think we'd have maybe a half-hour content. Right. But once he and I got going, it was, we had no issue.
Well, all right, guys. Thank you for joining me today. Dadnarok, Shaun and Chris run a show called Dadnarok, and you can visit their website at www.dadnarok.com. They have all their podcast episodes up there, plus basically everything that they put out is on there, and a wonderful picture of them, which looks like it's from back from high school. So
that's so cool. We had more hair back then.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, guys, for joining me today. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for having us, John.
Anytime.